Hello and welcome to About You. I'm Ellen Rogers. It would be easy to begin today's program with an adage of, through tragedy, great things can happen. Yet in this case of this tragedy, great things did happen. Simply, today's guest has saved lives, the lives of this community's children. It was through the loss of her child, Emily Stillman, that so many others are here for us to hold, hug, and hear our I love yous and clean up your room. Alicia Stillman, our thanks and our welcome to About You.
Thank you.
I so appreciate you willing to share your story about Emily. And I read her story, and my daughter was a second year at University of Michigan, and I called my doctor and I called my daughter and like, we have to get vaccinated.
That's great.
All because of an article I read about you and your daughter.
Thank you.
So let's honor Emily today, give her a voice, and let's hear about her accomplishments, her joys, and what she was all about.
So Emily was my middle daughter, and she was a vivacious and funny and lively young adult. She was 19 years old. She was a sophomore at Kalamazoo College in Kalamazoo. And she went to Andover High School, and she was captain of her forensics team. She was friends with everybody. Emily loved life. And at Kalamazoo, she kind of found her voice. She was involved in community theater, and she had a lot of friends, and she was really, really happy. One evening, Emily called me. She had a headache. And I said, I thought she could be coming down with the flu. Emily thought maybe she was very tired because she had been up all night studying the night before. We decided she would take a couple Motrin and go to bed, and we'd talk in the morning. The morning didn't come for Emily because a few hours later she woke up and her headache was worse. She said to her roommates, "This is unlike a headache that I've really had before, and I think I should go to the hospital." So they took her to the hospital, where she was diagnosed with a migraine. A few hours later, as her personality began to change, which is symptomatic with meningococcal disease, they did test her and found that she had bacterial meningitis or meningococcal disease. I was called the next morning and told to come to the hospital right away. For me, it was a huge surprise, and I kept saying, please double check the results because she can't have bacterial meningitis. My daughter was vaccinated. I kept saying that. So I didn't want something else to go untreated because they were concentrating on bacterial meningitis.
And this is, I think, a really important part of your story and
Yes.
Emily's story, is that you are, a concerned mom. She was an active kid.
Yes.
You followed all the rules and followed the pediatrician, and she was vaccinated. So that's a huge point, is she was vaccinated.
She was. The key point to that is she was vaccinated with what we use in the United States, which is called, I knew it as the meningitis shot. It's also referred to as the quadrivalent vaccine, meaning 4, or the conjugate vaccine. That meant it protected her from 4 serogroups of meningococcal disease, A, C, W, and Y. Of course, as a mother, I had no idea that. I just thought the meningitis shot.
And these are the strains we're talking about.
These are the serogroups.
Okay, the serogroups.
The serogroups, correct. There are different strains of serogroups, so we have to be careful with how we refer to it. But yes, 4 serogroups. So she was protected from that, but B was not in there. And I had no idea that there was even such a thing as B. I had no idea.
And the important thing, too, is that B, it was out there, but just not in the United States.
Oh, no, it is in the United States.
At the time, was it?
Oh, the vaccine was not in the United States, but cases of B were quite prevalent.
Okay.
Yes. Over a third of cases in the United States are serogroup B.
So here's this vivacious girl, and within 36 hours, we have a tragedy.
We have a tragedy. We were told when we got to the hospital, they tried a craniotomy. They tried everything to bring the swelling down in her brain, but the swelling never decreased in her brain. And we were told less than 30 hours later that our daughter was brain dead. No words that a parent could ever anticipate hearing. It's words that just you don't even know how to process.
So let's go back to, she goes to the hospital, you get the call, and this is a good hospital.
It was an excellent hospital.
And these are great doctors.
Excellent
and they're
doctors.
going
She
through
received excellent care.
And they're going through the steps, all that they should have.
They started her on an antibiotic, which is protocol, once meningococcal disease, which is a bacterial infection. So once that is diagnosed, protocol is to start an antibiotic immediately, and they did. But the swelling in her brain was so severe that the swelling never went down. And that is what took Emily.
So so she's this vivacious girl. She's healthy. You've had her vaccinated,
Yeah.
and then you lose her.
And then I lose her.
And your other let's talk about too. Was there an outbreak at
There
the
was
college?
not an outbreak. Emily was a 1 at Kalamazoo College. The majority of cases of meningococcal disease are 1s and 2s all over the country. They are not parts of outbreak. They're not parts of an outbreak. Some studies show 10%, and some on college campuses show up to 30% of the population carry this bacteria in the back of their throat. And they're asymptomatic. They just don't come down with any symptoms, but they do carry the bacteria. But then there might be one kid or one person, because it's not just a college disease. One person may be, their resistance may be a little bit compromised. They may be just getting over being sick. They may be overtired, and they are not able to fight off that bacteria if exposed to it. And that would have been what happened with Emily.
So Emily's tired, like college kids,
Like
right?
college
Like
kids.
college kids.
Right.
You know, having 2 kids in college, I mean, I get that call. I have had this call.
Yes.
Where, mom diagnosed me over the phone, and I'm like, go to student services. And so many times it is, they just don't get enough sleep.
Right.
They don't, they're not eating correctly. Sometimes they're partying,
Right.
whatever way they're partying, and they are getting run down. So we do get mono.
Right.
We have lots of, not outbreaks, but lots of kids come home and have mono.
Sure. I mean, any of the communicable diseases, but even the flu, colds. And then remember that they're spread like wildflowers on college campuses because the kids are sharing cups. They're sharing drinks. They're sharing things.
Sure. Like I know with my daughter, again, so many calls of I'm tired, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I do, not with no medical degree, right, or background, go, well, Benadryl or like an aspirin, like you've said, and
Right.
just sleep.
Right.
But so this course was actually just what we all do.
Right. Right.
So the school, everyone did what they were supposed to, but it's
Oh yes.
So tell us how, now being an expert at this, how it spread.
So it spread, like I said, over 10% of our population carry this bacteria in the back of their throat. It spread with respiratory droplets, a cough, a sneeze, sharing a water bottle, having multiple kissing partners. It is shared that way. So that's why we find on college campuses or in close living quarters, the kids are more at risk.
Another thing that I've just read that college kids are getting lice, and why, that's more like an elementary school thing, but it's because of selfies. They're putting their heads together.
Oh, interesting.
And they're doing all these selfies. And college kids are just a bunch of kittens, I always think. They're always, like with my daughter, they're always hanging around each other.
Yeah.
So easy.
Yes.
But yet so hard to protect yourself.
Yes.
I know my daughter, the first year, she just had a cough the entire first year of living in the dorm.
Mm-hmm.
Now my son's and it's the same thing.
Yes.
There's this, so it's just not unusual.
Right.
And so Emily is this healthy kid.
Yes.
And she's just one of the ones at Kalamazoo. Can you tell me, just walk through the shock and for your family, the reaction?
So when I was called Friday morning, about 8:15, by the dean of the university. And I was contacted and said, I don't know what you know, but Emily has been admitted to the hospital with bacterial meningitis. When I was called, and I was waiting for a call from the university anyway. Emily had applied to an abroad program in Australia, and we were waiting to hear. So when the dean called and said, hello, Mrs. Stillman, I don't know what you know, but Emily was admitted. And right away I got all excited and I said, oh, yay. I think back now and I'm thinking, oh, that poor woman,
Right,
she didn't really know
right.
what to do with me, right? But so she kind of got the rest out pretty quickly. And she said, you need to get to the hospital, and here's the person to ask for, and here's the number to call when you're en route. And so that's what I did. It took me 2 hours to get to the hospital. My husband was out of town on business. My older daughter was abroad doing her abroad program in South America, and my son was still in high school at that time, so he was not home. So, I never thought it was going to be anything. I got in the car and started to drive. When I walked into the hospital, and the first nurse who saw me, said, "Hi, I'm Alicia Stillman, Emily's mom," and I had no idea what was in store for me, no idea. And she started to rub my arm, and she said, "Would you like us to call clergy?"
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And then I called my husband back, and he was already trying to get home at that point, not because I really thought it was going to be anything serious, but I thought, well, if she's going to be in the hospital a day or two, he should come home, he should be with us, and then he'll go back. He was, doing business, out of the state. And for the life of me, I never anticipated what was going to come.
And no one would.
Right.
No one. Here's a
Right.
healthy child.
It was, in the blink of an eye, your entire life changes. Everything that you know, everything that you think about your life, your family, everything changed in a minute.
In a minute.
In a minute.
And doing everything that you're supposed to be doing.
I did.
Right.
But it's
Emily
natural
too.
at first, you think to yourself, oh my God, what did I not do? Did I not give her the vaccine? But see, Emily's year was when the recommendation for the quadrivalent vaccine changed. Prior to Emily's year, the kids got a dose at age 11, and they thought that immunity would last all through the years that they're most vulnerable. And right around Emily's year, they discovered these kids needed to be boosted. So at 16, 17 years old, they now give a booster for that vaccine, and I remembered that. So I was so torn with, what did I not do? How could this be happening?
But it's just in that gap of the time. We're going to take a short break,
Okay.
but we have so much more to learn about Emily and to honor her presence still here with us.
Thank you.
So stay with us. We're going to hear more about Emily Stillman.
Pets add so much to our lives, and every day we show how much we care for them. We feed them and walk them, feed them and walk them, feed them and walk them, feed them and walk them. But do you know what happens to all the pet waste when we don't dispose of it properly? Remember, storm drains lead directly to our rivers and lakes, so leaving pet waste on the ground or putting it in the storm drain or ditch sends harmful bacteria to our rivers and lakes. Help keep our water safe and clean. Whether on a walk or in your yard, pick up after your pet and throw it in the trash. Together, we can keep our water clean. It's our water, our future, ours to protect.
Hello and welcome back to About You. I'm Ellen Rogers. With me today is Alicia Stillman and her lovely, lovely daughter, Emily Stillman. Emily passed away 3.5 years ago from meningitis B, a vaccine that wasn't available in the United States at that time. There's other strains that our kids have been vaccinated. So she passed away, and you have to move on. And you move on in this beautiful, beautiful way of honoring your daughter with the Emily Stillman Foundation.
Thank you.
Tell us about how that came to be.
Those very early on after she passed away, I was in a fog, and it was hard to get out of bed most days, and I walked around just saying, why me? How could this happen to our family? Why Emily? She was so good. We did good things. How could this have happened? And one day, I got up and I said, stop it. I felt my daughter, as I do quite a bit, and I said, it's because it's me. And I remembered a promise that I had made Emily when I said goodbye. I knew Emily was brain dead, and they were keeping her alive because she became an organ donor. And Emily donated 6 organs to 5 people. And when I said goodbye to her that day, I said, you go, and you go in peace, and you just know that I'm going to be okay, but I'm going to be your voice. And I am going to figure out how this could happen, and I'm going to make sure that this doesn't happen to other people. And we said goodbye. So by the time I got myself together and I said, because it's me, you have to understand I had 2 other children. And these other children were going to look to me to decide, how am I going to heal? What happens when life isn't exactly as you think it's going to be? And I had to be a role model for them. So my husband and I created the Emily Stillman Foundation. And we created it in memory of our daughter, with 2 missions. One, to raise awareness for all serogroups of meningococcal disease and all forms of meningitis, which has quickly grown to all vaccine-preventable diseases. And also we advocate for organ and tissue donation quite a bit as well, and that's the other part of our mission.
Now it wasn't available here, and you were going to make sure other kids were vaccinated.
So I found out that when Emily passed away, it was from serogroup B. And so she was, in fact, protected with the conjugate vaccine that would have protected her from all 4 of the serogroups, A, C, W, and Y, but not B, which was the 5th one that we see a lot of, in fact, over 1/3 of the cases in the United States. So I found out that there was a vaccine available, but it wasn't available in the United States. But Canada had it available. So I had my son at that point who was going to be ready to go away to college, and I could not move another child into a dormitory environment. So I knew I was going to take him to Canada to get this vaccine. And then I started to think, but what about all these other kids? And so we started to charter buses. And we took whole families across the border and protected them with this vaccine. People flew in from all over the United States and met up with us, got on one of our buses, and came into Canada with us.
How many people?
Well, hundreds and hundreds at that time. You know, then I created a vaccine clinic once we got it here, and it wasn't available yet in the doctor's offices. So in total, I have to say there's been over 1,000 people
that you saved. They're here. They're here because of you and because of Emily. I mean, talk about a wonderful, direct path, direct line of how she has marked her time here, right?
You know, I always say, nothing I do is ever enough for Emily, but it is enough for all the other millions of Emilys out there.
Like my Emily, and my Griffin, my Madison and Griffin both. I read her story and they started clicking off going to college, and I'm like, wait, I know this. And actually, at my doctor's office, it wasn't a quick yes, we have that. No. It was a little push.
And unfortunately, we are still finding that once we were going to Canada, so I knew my family was protected. But the next order of business was really to get that vaccine here. And it was interesting because we were experiencing 2 outbreaks at that time. We were experiencing an outbreak at Princeton University and at UC Santa Barbara. So it was kind of on people's radar because those 2 schools did make some press. And the FDA was kind of left standing there at that time with their pants down because people turned to them and said, well, why don't we have that vaccine? And they actually brought in that vaccine to vaccinate the student body at Princeton and UC Santa Barbara, a non-FDA approved vaccine. They brought in to protect these 2 schools. In fact, the following year, they brought it in again. It still wasn't approved. They brought it in again for the incoming freshman class at Princeton.
So this is not an outbreak. It's not a disease or a virus that many people at the time. But the government does react, and the FDA does approve it. So tell us about that.
So then they approved it. My husband and I went, and we worked with many members of Congress, and we went to the FDA. In October of 2013 and January of 2014 and January of 2015, the 2 vaccines were approved. Pfizer's Trumenba, and at that time it was Novartis, now it's GSK's Bexsero. So they were approved. Once we have approved drugs or vaccines, it goes to the CDC, and their committee, the ACIP committee, then meets to discuss recommendations. I testified there in June of last year. They gave it what they call a Category B recommendation. Even though the vaccines are approved in the United States for ages 10 to 25, but I will say that they are using it much more broadly in other countries. They recommended it for ages 16 to 23, that that people can get it. But it leaves the burden to the parents to ask for it, or to the patient to ask for it. Some pediatricians are bringing it up. So it leaves organizations like mine and others to bring it up and to raise awareness, so that parents like you that had 2 kids in that age group know to walk into your doctor's office and ask.
And I know in my doctor's office here, they have, meningitis B vaccine available.
Right.
And you know how you kind of glance at it, and I really do trust my doctor to say, and actually, I totally trust them. I don't even keep track of it.
Yes.
No, they go and they say, and my kids will say, hey, am I going to get a shot? And I'm like, if you do, you do, right? So I did have to ask. And let's tell our viewers, too, it's not just a one shot. You have to go back.
You do have to go back. Bexsero is a 2-dose series to be given 30 days apart. And if you choose that one, if you choose Pfizer's drug Trumenba, right now it is a 3-part series. They are trying to get it knocked down to a 2-part series to be given over 6 months. Either one, whichever one you start with, you must complete. They are not interchangeable. But that is an additional vaccine series in addition to the conjugate vaccine that is important.
And with my doctor's office, once I said yes, then they kept track.
Yes.
In 6 months, they called and said, hey, we need another, they need to come in.
Yes.
And I was, very thankful about that.
Right.
So where do we stand right now? That it's just been approved, really 2015, that's not, very long.
Right.
But for our viewers, you would have to ask for this.
So you still need to ask. Many times, the doctor will bring it up. I've partnered with the state of Michigan, and we're trying to get these posters as many places as possible to go into medical facilities so that a patient can ask, and it explains it. And it really clarifies, it's 2 vaccine series that you need. You still need the conjugate vaccine, and then you also need a Men B series.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
okay.
you still need both series.
And there's been other works of the foundation, too.
Yeah.
Before we run out of time, let's talk more about that.
So we run vaccine clinics. We speak wherever we can. I speak to a group of parents at a kitchen table or a large auditorium. I've spoke to medical school classes, universities, high schools, religious institutions. I speak on anything from raising awareness for vaccine-preventable diseases, the importance of vaccination, to organ and tissue donation, to compassionate care at the end of one's life. We give out these symptom cards so that the college students have these symptoms on one side, protection on the other. We put these in end-of-year party giveaway bags this year, which was a great thing.
That's a great thing for high school.
Yep.
Yep.
We just do a lot of awareness raising in addition to our vaccination clinics. We have our global initiative going on, which we are going to Malawi in August. We are providing ambulance bicycles into the remote villages of Malawi. These people in Malawi are not living past 55 years of age, the majority, and so many of the deaths are attributable to vaccine-preventable diseases, and they are not able to get to a medical facility. So we are giving them the means to get their patients to a medical facility with bicycles.
So Emily's reaching far and wide.
Emily will be in Africa.
Right. Let's talk about Carly and Zachary.
Okay.
Right? Her brother and sister,
yes.
and your other children.
Yeah.
How are they involved and their just joy in being able to help other people?
Yeah. So Carly and Zachary, the Emily Stillman Foundation is a true family affair. And, I'll get a text throughout the day from one of the kids, just met so-and-so, they're vaccinated. In fact, when Zachary went away to college and his roommate's mother called me and she says, I know I'm supposed to call and talk about who's bringing the refrigerator and the rug in the dorm room, but I want you to know I know who you are, and my son was vaccinated. I took him to Canada.
Oh, so great.
Yeah. So it's truly a family affair.
And are the kids, are they involved in the setting it up or emailing or any of that?
Absolutely. They're involved in every step.
And so what's the next step for you? Let's talk about you.
Well, maybe one day meningococcal disease will be a thing of the past, like polio, smallpox. It can be eradicated if we can get the vaccination rates up. Maybe one day there'll not be There'll not be a wait list for organ and tissue donation. People who need an organ will not have to wait. So maybe one day the mission of the foundation will be done, and I'll be able to relax and know Emily's death was not in vain. And I'll be able to relax and just be at peace and know she had a short life, but maybe that's why.
Right, right. And it wasn't in vain. I'm sitting here really as a testament to that my kids, you know, whatever may happen to them, meningitis B is not on their path.
Thank you.
And I read an article in one of a local newspaper at the time. Emily's passing was all over our local news, and I'm hoping just that other people, did the same thing. Let's tell our viewers how to donate or how to volunteer.
So there's a website, www.foreveremily.org, and there's a lot of information on there. There's a lot of pictures of all of our events. There's a lot of ways people can become involved, and I would love the help spreading the word. I have received emails from people, it's not just a Michigan thing, from all over the country, letting people know that I am, being heard, and that's great.
So again, is there a phone number or the website?
The website is great, www.foreveremily.
And what type of volunteering could they do?
I could use help getting these out to the different medical offices, get the symptom cards out to the universities.
So could they just simply come and pick this up?
Oh, sure.
Take it to their own doctor, their own high school, have their kids put it up in their dorm?
Sure, that would be awesome.
Actually, my daughter's in an apartment building right now,
Excellent.
so that could go
and
there.
That should be there too.
Right. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It was so wonderful to hear more about Emily. I've read about her and seen her photos. And good luck to your family.
Thank you.
We won't forget Emily. We haven't here, and our viewers, now that they know about it, not just Emily as the great Kalamazoo student, but also the good works that are happening through her life.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us here at About You, where every woman has a story worth telling.